Welcome to episode 75 of Dank times Danker Thoughts with me, Angelo Grosso. To honor the 75th episode, I made myself a double or triple Manhattan. Oh shit, I almost spilled it on the keyboard. I'm going to take a little sippy poo. I made it too strong. I don't know what I was thinking. I can't hold my liquor like I used to. You know, I'm not 16 through 21 anymore. And I'm already a little bit buzzed, dare I say, tipsy as a motherfucker already. But the show must go on. What's been going on, everybody? I hope y'all have been good. I got to be honest with you right off the bat. I was in a kind of a funk the last few days, if not week. And it stemmed mostly from lack of interest from the opposite sex on the dating apps. I went through kind of a dry spell. And I don't do good when I'm not doing anything with friends or family. I'm working all day quarantined, and I only leave the house to, do some grocery shopping or grab a latte. I have had a few times when friends have come over to my house, but when I offer up, hey, let's go to a bar, let's go to a concert, let's go to a stand-up show, crickets. Fucking crickets. So I haven't been able to do much outside of my house for the last few weeks. And that also coincided with a lack of dating, a lack of first dates, and a lack of really just interest on a number of dating apps that I'm on. So yeah, I was kind of in a funk. Masturbation was up, and I just was trying my hardest not to kind of tailspin there. Because it happens every now and then. I have a few bad days in a row, and I end up smoking too much marijuana, eating too much, not exercising, not talking to friends or family as often, and kind of just getting in a pit of sadness until I berate myself out of it. Luckily, though, I feel like I did a pretty good job of not just, focusing on the negative, and instead reminding myself that, okay, obviously it's just a quiet time on the dating front. It's nothing you're doing or not doing. It is what it is. That bared to be true because, shit, just a couple days ago, I got 3 or 4 ladies on one app hitting me up, and then the next day I had a few more on a separate app, and as we speak, I'm talking to 2 ladies. A third I just started talking to, and so, hey, it's funny, you go a couple weeks without hearing a peep, and in a matter of 4 days, you make up for it. And so I hope that one of these ladies that I'm talking to bears a little bit of fruit, either a fun hookup, first date, banging, whatever, or something more. And that's ultimately what I'm hoping for. But at this point, I'm not going to lie, people, I got pretty horny there for a couple days, if not weeks. And when I wasn't getting any likes on the dating app, it started to really weigh on me. I started to think, well, shit. Do I need to rewrite my bio, update my photos? Do I need to do whatever? And I tweaked some things. I don't know if it made a huge difference, but, hopefully the future is bright. It's amazing how a 180 can happen just by a stranger saying, he's not fugly enough for me not to swipe yes on. So, yeah, I hope one of these ladies gets me out of the fucking house. Maybe we can bump uglies, have some fun. So, I hope that all my single listeners out there heed my advice and say, even though you have your dips, I have found out through time that it truly is a ebb and flow. You may have a couple weeks or a month or so of shit, But usually, if you keep at it and try your fucking hardest to stay positive and upbeat, you should get out of it. You should be able to climb yourself out of whatever hole that you're in, either of your own making or just fate said, fuck it, we're going to torture Angelo this month. What can I say? I'm going to take another sippy poo here. I think why this drink is hitting me so hard is that I didn't actually have physical cherries for this Manhattan. Now, I don't know what kind of cocktails y'all like drinking. My number one is a Manhattan. Number two is an old fashioned. And then number three is a dry martini. It doesn't matter. I like martinis. I prefer whiskey to gin, although I do like a nice gin or vodka martini. I'm not going to lie. And one of the calling cards, if you will, of a Manhattan, my favorite drink, is a physical cherry or two. Now, when I used to make them at home, I used to throw in 3 or 4 cherries because I love nothing more than a nice maraschino cherry that has been soaking in bourbon or whiskey for 20, 25 minutes, however long it takes you to drink one of these. However, I have been buying way too many cherries that I haven't been able to eat before they spoil. So I decided that unless I'm hosting people, I'm not going to buy a jar of cherries because I just don't eat them quick enough, and it's not healthy for me to just eat them out of the fucking jar, considering that they're sitting in vermouth usually, and they're pretty sugary. So a while ago, my buddy said I have the same issues. Do you know there's such a thing as cherry liqueurs that are just as good as the real thing, and it lasts longer. So I went out and I bought myself a cherry liqueur. I think I put too much in here, and that's why it's hitting me a little bit harder than usual, because that is sugar. If you buy anything that's a liqueur that's based on a real thing, odds are it's going to be sugary as fuck. And this one is no exception. However, it is good. It is good. But holy Jesus, am I tipsy here. Can't stop drinking it, though. Let's see, what else has been going on? Oh! I have booked international travel plans with 2 friends. One is a new friend. It's a friend of a friend. And the 3 of us will be going to Germany and Prague over Christmas. So, hey, your boy made a big decision. Thank you. So, I will be heading to Germany, landing in Munich, and we'll be going to Dresden, Nuremberg, Berlin, and of course we're going to be visiting Prague for a couple days. I believe it is a 8 to 10 day plan. I cannot remember because the Manhattan is hitting me. I'm going with one of my good friends and her friend. We met at a Duke's Chowder House, was it, a couple weeks ago, to kind of talk about the plan to see, are we a good traveling fit? Because I have never traveled like this before. When I have traveled outside the country, I go to one place, I stay at one hotel, and I plan my time accordingly around those plans, if you catch my drift. This one, I am going with 2 friends who are much more versed in international travel than I am. If it was up to me, I would fly into Munich and just stay in Munich for a week while taking transportation back and forth. However, since my friends are better travelers than I am kind of holding on to their coattails in a sense. I can give my opinion on things, but this is my first vacation where I'll be going to multiple different places, staying in multiple different Airbnbs and hotels, and I'm pretty excited, people. I'm actually really, really excited. I have one of my good friends, a listener of the podcast. She also lives out in Germany. I'm drawing a blank on what her town is, but it's like a Birkendarkenbacken, something like that. I believe it starts with a B. And they also have friends out there, the people I'm traveling with. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Tickets are bought. We are currently working on hotels and transportation. My dumb American ass just assumed Germany was well ahead of us when it comes to public transportation, and they are, but not as much as I thought. I just assumed that you could travel the breadth of Germany in a day on a light rail or a speed light rail, whatever they're called, and that's not the case. Luckily, one of my good friends and coworkers is straight out of Germany, and I'm going to meet up with him soon, or chit chat with him soon. We're going to kind of, he's going to tell me what are some good ideas to do. I've been hearing that Nuremberg is not as fun as I thought it would be. I'm kind of an old man internally, and so I'm obsessed with history, specifically World War II history, and so I would love to go to Nuremberg and look at the history there. Same thing with Dresden. Long story short, one of the reasons I love Dresden so much is that it was a metropolis of its time. Sorry, I just burped in my throat a little bit. Dresden was the metropolis of its time. It was the leading center of culture and society, art, you name it, pre-World War II. And of course, once World War II broke out and shit hit the fan, the Allied forces firebombed Dresden to the ground. So it has since been rebuilt, to my understanding. And so I would love to spend at least a day in Nuremberg and Dresden, although I'm being told by multiple people that Nuremberg is kind of trash. So maybe not. But I feel like I should back up here. The reason that we're going to Germany over Christmas is that both myself and my traveling companions both have wanted to go to Germany over Christmas because it's supposed to be one of the most beautiful places in the world around Christmas. I'm not a huge Christmas fan, so to speak, but I still have nostalgic love for the spirit of Christmas, the idea of Christmas, of helping one another out, doing good for yourself and others, not so much receiving presents. I mean, that's for the kids. I get that. I don't give a fuck about receiving presents. I do like, however, shopping for friends and family and seeing the happiness in their eyes when they open a present. And if they don't like the present that I bought them, at least they're a good actor the majority of the time. It's going to be cold there, but I am so excited, people. I am so excited. I've talked about on the podcast before about how I've been kind of down in the dumps, that I missed my 4th of July trip and my Idaho trip after that due to the stomach virus. And the 4th of July trip, of course, I missed because my father literally went in the hospital a couple days before, got released, and then he went back to the hospital on the 4th of July. So I've missed out on a few things the last couple years. The pandemic did not help. And to my knowledge, and I'm a little iffy on this statement, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm a red-blooded American, that I haven't gone on a legitimate vacation since I flew to Tokyo for a week, 6-7 years ago. So I'm really looking forward to this trip to Germany. And I hope just have a good fucking time, man. I need it badly. The pandemic and the lack of seeing people, the lack of having a partner, and a lot of things are starting to add up. And it could be seasonal depression or just boredom. I don't know. But I get a little sad when I wake up around 7-ish and it's dark. And by 6 o'clock, it's dark. So I feel like I'm surrounded by darkness. I don't have anyone I can talk to or that I can stick it in. And I don't know. It was just weighing on me the last few weeks. And to be invited to a trip like this, because that's what happened. I didn't do shit. My friend reached out to me and brought it up, and I jumped at it. And I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but within a day or two, I was invited to go to the Dominican Republic and Iceland. Now, the Iceland trip, I don't know if it's going to happen at all. But again, when you're down to the dumps and a friend reaches out to you, that knows nothing of what you're going through. It's just a very nice, warm feeling. It's good to know that no matter what you think about yourself, and at that current state, you're probably thinking poorly about yourself. And to have a friend or brother or sister, however you want to describe it, the individual, reach out to you with an olive branch, so to speak, it speaks a lot to the kind of people that you surround yourself with. And it also speaks to who you are as an individual. So it's hard to feel down about yourself when others don't view you that way. And if you focus on that and say, well, if they view me like that and I view me like this, why is there a discrepancy? Why do they think one thing and I think another? Let's analyze this. So anyway, that's what's been going on with me through some areas that I've been struggling with lately. So these are good times. These really are good times. They almost make you feel bad for feeling bad, which I think is a normal feeling, if you will. But I've struggled with that recently with my life, is that I feel bad about feeling bad because I have it better, in my opinion, than 99% of other people in the world. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's how I feel. So it's good to be reminded that you may see yourself one way, but in reality, society and the people you choose to surround yourself with view you in an entirely better, brighter light. And with that bullshit, I think we can move on. Let's knock out sports and let's talk about Russell Wilson going on injured reserve, missing the next 3 to 4 weeks of his 2021 season, the first games he's ever missed in his 10 or 11 year Seahawk career. Oh, LaFonda, fine. Come on, LaFonda, interrupt me. Come on. That's what I thought. Anyway, the last game against the Rams, he fucked up his hand, and he's gotten surgery since then. So we will be moving forward for the next few weeks with Geno Smith as our starting quarterback, and probably, what's his name? The second-year player that we got off of Jacksonville, Jake Luton, that Oregon State Beaver bitch. Yeah, him. It's going to be interesting because we also put Chris Carson on injured reserve, which means he's going to miss the same amount of games as Russell Wilson. So for the first time, since Tavares Jackson was a starting quarterback, we have a non-Russell Wilson-led team. And we are also down our number one running back. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I don't remember all of the teams that we're going to play in that span. I know we're playing the Steelers this weekend, and then we play the Jacksonville Jaguars, which are having their own problems with Urban Meyer, his cuck ass. The third team I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Is it Philadelphia? All three of those teams are down in the bottom in terms of offense and defense. Jacksonville is probably the worst team in football, if not the Detroit Lions. And so I think Geno Smith can probably get us 2 wins out of 3 or 4, depending. Now, we have our bye week, and then we play Green Bay, and that's the game that Russell Wilson wants to come back on. And, of course, if he wills it, it's probably going to be so. So the real question is, if we do win 2 or 3 games without Russell Wilson, will that make it more apparent that, you know what, maybe it's time that we trade Russ? And on the flip side, if we go 0-3 and it's a lost season at that point, Russell Wilson's probably thinking, well, shit, this season's gone. It's a lost season. So do I want to even be here? And I think that'll line up with the trade deadline as well. So it could be interesting. This could be a foreshadowing of the Seattle Seahawks without Russell Wilson in the future. Now, I've said it a few times on this podcast, but say the Philadelphia Eagles, who do have 3 first-round picks in the upcoming NFL draft, if they said, you know what, we will trade you 2 of the 3 first-round picks, and then maybe they'll throw in a third or a fourth and take on all of Russell Wilson's contract. And maybe they'll even throw in Jalen Hurts. I would take that trade. I think I would. And then you could probably look at maybe trading another Hall of Famer that's been here for a long time, and Bobby Wagner. You could probably get a few draft picks for him. I don't know about multiple firsts because he is a linebacker, not a quarterback. But suddenly, if you do it right, you could have 3 first-round picks in the next draft. Now, the consensus that I've read is that the 2022 NFL draft is weak at quarterback. And the last I checked, there's Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma, I believe, Malik Willis at Liberty, and then you have Matt Corral of Ole Miss. There's Slovis at USC, and there's a few others. But it really is a weak class. It's actually, ironically, reminiscent of the draft class that Geno Smith came out of. I know, LaFonda, you're a Geno Smith fan. Yeah. So, it's going to be a intriguing few weeks. My money is that Russell Wilson will come back for the Packers game, and that Geno Smith will have gotten us 2 victories out of 3. I don't know what the third team is. I'm drawing a blank, but I know we're obviously playing the Steelers and then the Jaguars. I just don't know who that mystery third team is. But we have to keep pace, in the wild card race. I don't think we're going to win the West the way that the Rams and especially the Arizona Cardinals are playing. So it's going to be interesting. The video game player in me is already envisioning multiple scenarios where we do trade Russell, we get multiple first-round picks, we trade away some other veterans, get all the picks we need, and build up this team. Because that's what I like to do when I play Madden. I like to take a shit team. Usually it's the Falcons or the Lions or the Texans. I trade away all the established players for draft picks, and then I try to rebuild. Am I saying that my Madden skills could transfer to real life? Maybe. No one's ever done it before. No, I for sure would lose my job within a few months if I tried bringing Madden logic into real life. I'm going to take another sippy poo here. LaFonda, chill, girl. I still have faith in the Hawks, though. I would have fired our defensive coordinator by now, but let's give him time to right the ship, so to speak. But if our defense is still playing the way they're playing at the bye week, Ken Norton Jr.'s got to go. Congratulations to the Kraken on getting their first professional victory. I tried watching the highlights, and I understood some of it, but I'm still confused by the game of hockey. I am excited, though, about learning it and going to games. I think it's a great accomplishment that we have another sports franchise here, and that it's 1-1 as I record this, and the one loss was on opening night against Las Vegas, and supposedly they're the best team in the West, and we lost 4-3 if I'm not mistaken, so we didn't get blown out. I dare to say we're already somewhat competitive, which is a good sign. What else? Any other sports news? Let's see, baseball. All the teams I didn't want to go to the playoffs have gone to the playoffs and have won. I was pulling for the Chicago White Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. Those guys got bounced immediately. And so now we're in the championship series, and you have Houston and Boston. I fucking hate both those teams. And then in the National League, you have the Dodgers and Cardinals. The Dodgers just won. And St. Louis used to be the perennial World Series contender a couple of years ago. And so you're looking at the 4 teams. All 4 of them are always in this position. And so I'm the kind of sports fan that usually roots for the underdog or roots for the team that has the longest championship drought. And so if that's the case, I will have to go with the Atlanta Braves, who I mistakenly called the St. Louis Cardinals a second ago. Now, the Atlanta Braves were World Series champions once or twice in the 90s and have made the playoffs since then, but they haven't won it all. And Houston has won, the Dodgers have won, Boston has won a few times. So, out of the 4 teams remaining, I'm going to have to go with Atlanta. Even though I don't really have a connection to the team or the players, they just had the longest championship drought. I just don't give a fuck about the Dodgers or the Astros, and I hate the Boston Red Sox, hate the fans, hate the team. They're up there with the Yankees to me. And I can't root for Houston because of their cheating scandal a couple years ago, but, in reality, all they did was bang a fucking drum. Whereas other teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees, they cheat in their own ways, like the luxury tax. You fucking ingrates. So, hopefully Atlanta pulls it out, but I really don't care who wins. I'm just crossing my fingers that the Seattle Mariners go ham in the upcoming offseason. But anyway, with that, I think we can move on. I don't really have any politics to talk about this week. Nothing really happened that catches my eye. There was that wild terrorist attack in Norway where a Islamic terrorist used the bow and arrow to kill a few people. And there was that conservative British politician that was killed as well. But I don't got much to say about it. I've joked before about historically there used to be a lot more political assassinations, and it's been kind of a dry spell recently. And although the Norwegian terrorist attack was not politically motivated, the British one was, allegedly. So, who knows? Maybe some of these people are listening to the podcast. I hope not. That means I'm talking to the wrong people. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. We're still bitching here about the debt ceiling. We're still bitching with the January 6th commission. Donald Trump is still out there talking shit. Biden's not talking to the press. It's not looking good for either party right now. Anyway, let's move on to, I guess this is somewhat political, but the new Dave Chapelle special. Let's talk about that. So, obviously, I watched the new Dave Chapelle special, The Closer, I believe it's called. Personally, I love Dave Chapelle. I say, for the last 20 or so years, he would be probably the GOAT. I would also put Louis C.K., Bill Burr, and a few others near the damn top. I mean, it's hard for me to say the true number one, but it's hard to not have Dave Chapelle there. And I am consistently surprised at the backlash that comedians get. Because that's what Dave Chapelle is. He is a comedian, sometimes actor. That's about it. And even though he does tend to get philosophical at times on his specials, they always end up being a punchline or a joke. So I don't understand why people lose their shit at all over any comedians, whether it be Dave Chapelle, Joe Rogan, Bill Burr. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I will say that the term cancel culture has been overused. Like most buzzwords, inevitably it comes from an area of truth and then gets, fucking raped into oblivion, and then it gets used all over the place. Just like fake news, just like Me Too, just like Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, all this stuff. It always starts with good intentions. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that Dave Chapelle, over the last few specials, has joked about the transgender community. Now, I would say he tends to repeat the jokes and says them differently, but the joke in itself is the same. Joking about genitalia and all that stuff. Which, again, he is a comedian. You don't have to laugh at everything he says. And if you're generally not a fan of his comedy, you know what you have the right to do is not watch it. I don't know why this is so troubling. But this latest one, I really didn't hear anything in that special that amounted to hate for the transgender community. Far from it, actually. And I'm a pretty open-minded, I would say that I can look beneath the surface of things. And, I don't, again, another word that's been misused is woke, but on some things I consider myself woke. But when it comes to not having a sense of humor about things and then trying to ruin someone's career based on not having a sense of humor, I'm not woke about that. In fact, those people need to get the fuck out of the country. They're bringing in that bullshit from the 50s where that, I'm drawing a blank on the motherfucker's name, who was a politician that said everybody that disagreed with him basically was a communist. And based on very little information or evidence whatsoever, people's lives got ruined, people killed themselves, went to jail, all this shit over bullshit. And it ebbs and flows throughout our society. But lately, well, not so much lately, I think the whole cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, is starting to die down because people are getting fucking sick of it and they realize, okay, you can't keep moving the goalposts further and further away. You can't keep redefining what it means to be woke or believing the correct thing. Now, back to the special, I don't understand. Honestly, I don't. And I've read a lot of trans journalists' opinions on it, and I don't know what they're listening to. It's hard for me to I guess it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes because they're just jokes. And he basically, he even explains in the special that obviously he's using transgender people a lot of the time as a metaphor for other things. And he lays it out special by special. And people almost like they're too stupid to understand it. But I'm just reading some headlines. From Bloomberg, Netflix staff raised concerns about Chapelle's special before its release. Fuck those employees. From New York Post, Netflix fires an employee who leaked info about what Dave Chappelle was paid for. Good, fuck that employee. The New York Times, Dave Chappelle isn't canceled, he just likes to talk about it. No, that's accurate. He does like to talk about it. And it just goes on and on and on. Dave Chappelle's Rorschach test. Dave Chappelle accomplished exactly what he wanted to. Well, I feel like that's clickbait. But Dave Chappelle's betrayal, and this is from GQ. It's being overblown yet again. But let me read you a little bit of an article from Deadline. Because I was looking for specific examples. Maybe I missed something. I do like to get high and watch TV in the evening, and so maybe that's what happened. Maybe I got high and something went right over my head. I don't know. Let's see. Chappelle spends most of the last third of his special on the streamers taking one dig. Streamers. Oh, yeah, streamers. Online people, YouTube, all those idiots. Special on the streamers taking one dig after another at the aforementioned communities and the strides they have made legally and culturally in recent years. Although the Mark Twain Prize winner does speak emotionally in the close about his friendship with now deceased transgender comedian Daphne Dorman, which is true, it was very heartbreaking because those fucking streamers, he doesn't blame them solely for his friend's suicide, but they definitely played a part. Because this is what happens. The transgender community has been beating up on Dave Chappelle, and they feel like he's been beating up on them, which, again, he's a fucking comedian. Who gives a fuck? And one transgender comedian stood up for Dave Chappelle saying, no, here's what he's saying. Those streamers went after this transgender comedian, Daphne Dorman, relentlessly. She removed all her social media, and then she ended up killing herself very shortly. So, I don't know why they're just glossing over that. But anyway, back to the article. Much of his performance is centered on the genitalia of trans women. No, it's not. And the apparent rights one opposed group in America has gained over another. Very true, and it's a very insightful and thought-provoking, I would say. In our country, you can shoot and kill a N-word. I'm not going to say it. But you better not hurt a gay person's feeling. The comedian says in reference to a 2018 incident involving rapper DaBaby, whom Chappelle defends at some length in the special at a Walmart in North Carolina that saw another man shot to death. Basically, I'll sum up the joke horribly. It's shitty. You have to talk about a joke because you don't have the context. That's another thing. When you're reading about something, when you read a joke online, it completely loses everything that makes it a joke. It's a joke. You have to hear the person's tone of voice, or else it's wasted. It's just some fucking fanoke on the internet writing bullshit. But the DaBaby comments was, hey, DaBaby got canceled, almost got canceled because of a homophobic rant he did a couple months ago. And I heard it Did not sound good. It sounded awful. It sounded like he was drunk, confused, and he didn't know what the fuck he was trying to say. Dave Chapelle is pointing out that is somehow worse than another incident involving DaBaby at this Walmart in North Carolina where he implies that DaBaby murdered somebody. He killed somebody. But no one gave a fuck about that. But he says a few homophobic remarks. Well, that's worse than killing somebody. That's the joke. That's the, this short and sweet of it. And then Chapelle goes on, I am not telling another joke about you until we both are sure that we are laughing together. All I ask from your community, with all humility, will you please stop punching down on my people? And again, without listening to it, that comment doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But previously he was saying that he was being criticized as punching down on the transgender community. And then he goes into this whole joke about, are you kidding me? Black people seem to not have the same rights as transgender people. And again, it's a comedian. Ridiculous. So I commend Netflix for sticking by Dave Chapelle, because not only is it freedom of speech, but again, it is a comedian. It is entertainment. It's like I tell friends when they give me shit for listening to Joe Rogan or, who's that Canadian person? Drawing a blank on his name. Or I listen to podcasts where Ben Shapiro gets interviewed. I mean, I don't like Ben Shapiro, but I listen to him if he's on a podcast that I enjoy. Jordan Peterson, that's the guy. And then there's, who's the British guy who's really hot and was married to Katy Perry. Oh, God, I am shit with the names right now. Hold on, that's just going to bug me, the British guy. But the point being, who gives a fuck what they say? If you don't like what they say, stop listening. These are comedians. They have no input over your life. They're not making laws. They're not making rules. They're not changing society. They're just joking. And again, if you don't like it, don't watch it. I don't know how to make it more simpler than that. Russell Brand. Motherfucker. That's why I couldn't remember. So, if you are on the fence about watching the Dave Chapelle special because I don't want to be rude to the transgender community, you're not. You're not going to be if you watch it. Because it's a comedy show. He talks very openly about things, and basically he says, I don't have a problem with transgender people. I have a problem with young transgender people with no sense of humor. Again, sense of humor. I don't like people that don't have a sense of humor. That's how you get the Taliban and the evangelicals. Not a lot of similarities besides they both do not have a sense of humor. Which it makes sense that the Taliban wouldn't have a sense of humor. They have, sand blowing up their ass all day. But what the fuck do the evangelicals not have a sense of humor for? They won the religion war. Are you kidding me? Christianity dominates this country, supposedly. So, anyway, fuck your feelings, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. I enjoyed it immensely. I love Dave Chapelle. I consider myself an ally of the transgender community, but I am not an ally to those who are lacking in a sense of humor, especially when it comes to them. If I laugh at comedians, but then they make fun of me, and I'm like, oh, I can't stand that, well, then I'm the problem here, okay? If I laugh at a comedian making jokes about all races, ethnicities, religions, whatever, but then he singles me out and says, yes, but single 35-year-old white Italian men in Auburn, Washington can suck a dick, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, he's personally attacking me. No, it's a joke. It's a joke. Laugh. Anyway, let's move on to the show that is taking over the world. When I first saw the trailer for Squid Game, I thought, what the fuck is this? This looks fucking weird. But I tend to like Korean shows. I have been watching Move to Heaven for months now because it is the saddest show I have ever watched, and it takes me 3 weeks to finish an episode because I can only watch it in 20-minute increments, and each episode is an hour. So, woo, they know how to make your boy cry. But Squid Game looked more like, what are some of the movies like? Not Parasite. Maybe Parasite. And then there was that zombie movie with the train, The Last Train to Busan or something, The Host, and other Korean movies and TV shows that I'm just drawing a blank on. And I thought, all right, well, I'll give the show a shot when I finish some other shows. But then it got released, and I kept hearing people talk about, good God Almighty, this show is amazing. And then I would hear that people finished the entire, I believe, 9 episode season in a couple days, if not one day. I'm thinking, the show about the Korean adults playing children's games? Like, what are they talking about here? And then people would describe it a little bit to me because they kept saying, "I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to ruin it for you." I'm like, Jesus, it's that kind of show, huh? But I put it off. I thought, let me finish watching Clickbait, which is a pile of shit series, but it was good enough just so I would keep watching to find out who did the murder. And shocker, it was the goddamn boomer all along. And I thought, okay, I gotta start watching Squid Game. The first episode, loved it. I felt really bad for the main character, but you also wanted to see him, get his ass kicked. And once you got to the actual Squid Game itself, the green light, red light game, pretty horrific. But again, they balanced it with almost a dark humor, and that's the shit I love. So I'm on episode 3 or 4, I don't really remember. I don't want to give anything away because those of you that haven't watched it yet have probably heard about it. What's surprising to me is that it's united not only the country but the world. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing because the whole series is revolving around basically income inequality and how some people are so piss-ass broke. Now, a lot of the people are piss-ass broke because of their own doing. But still, if you live in a first world society like South Korea, should there be such a high level of poverty? You could ask that about any first world country. I know I ask myself that every goddamn day when I look at the American news here. But the fact that a show about in-debt people playing games for their lives and enjoyment of other people, it's kind of sickening, but I love the shit. But if I was a political sociologist, I would say, why the fuck is this show captivating everybody? Rich, poor, black, white, it doesn't matter. Transgender, single gender, who the fuck cares? Everyone loves it. It's around the world, people are watching it. It crashed the country's servers in South Korea, which now South Korea is like, what the fuck, Netflix? So yeah, I will say that the first couple episodes are amazing to me. I cannot fathom the idea of watching multiple episodes in a day because it is quite dark and depressing and disturbing to me. But I think I've taken so much drugs in my life that my empathy level is so fucking high and my sensitivity level has risen when it comes to violent content that I consume, either in video games, music, movies, TV, books. It really starts to affect me more and more, and it kind of ruins me for a little bit. I have to take a break and watch something lighthearted like a podcast or an animal doc or play some sports or do anything but violence, I'm talking about. I can't really sit there and watch 2 episodes a day, at least not yet, and I'm on the 3rd episode. That's what I'm on. Have I finished the 3rd episode? I don't fucking know. But I switching gears to other TV shows. Fuck you, Only Murders in the Building. This is such a trash show, but I keep watching it because I have to know who the murderer is. I don't know what's happened to the show. The first 3 episodes were dynamite. But then, the shit hit the fan and it got really bad for a couple episodes. Then there was a few good ones mixed in with a bad one, but now we're back to shit after shit, and I'm over it. But I'm not over it enough to not keep watching. Oh, I have no spine. I just have to know who the fuck killed Tim Conway. Tim Conway? The actor Tim Conway? Is that the character's name? Tim something. What else? I've been watching some spooky movies that have been on my bucket list since I was a child. And it's been interesting because the movies that I've seen, The Abyss, the Evil Dead trilogy, and John Carpenter's The Thing from '82, I knew so much about these movies without watching them. Because they're such a cultural phenomenon, these movies, that you can't help but hear about it or see memes, see videos, hear people talking about it, see them on top 10 lists, top whatever lists. And I compare it to the movie Top Gun. I know I'm a communist because I've never seen Top Gun. I know. But I don't have to. I know everything about the movie. I know all the famous scenes. I know the homoerotic volleyball game that turned a lot of people gay or woke up a lot of gay people. So I don't really feel like I have to watch the movie besides, actually watching a classic. But that's how I felt about The Abyss. I've seen most of James Cameron's movies. The Abyss, I hadn't seen it, and I can't believe I hadn't seen it. I would have loved that movie more than I actually do, because I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10, if not 8 out of 10. But if I saw that shit when I was young, it would have been one of my favorites. Now, the Evil Dead series, I thought would be more funny than they actually were, but the humor did get ratcheted up a notch near the end of the second one, and of course the third one. There was almost too much humor in Army of Darkness, but I love the movie. I love those, the trilogy. I highly recommend them if you like horror comedies and you don't have a queasy stomach, at least for the first two. Now, last night I watched arguably top 10 best horror sci-fi movie of all time, if not top 10 best remake of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing. I love Kurt Russell, and I would bang him out good in this movie. He is so hot. And the special effects, I knew what to expect because I've seen them referenced time and time again. But watching it, oh my goodness, it actually spooked me a couple times, even though I knew it was going to happen. In fact, I even had, I wouldn't call it a nightmare, but I definitely had a dream where there was creatures like the Thing in it, where they were like mutating and shooting off weird, disgusting tentacles and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I'm trying to think now. What other spooky movies haven't I seen that I want to watch? I have a list somewhere, but I'm not going to bore everyone by trying to remember what the fuck I was talking about. So, with that, I think we can end it with a little bit of a history lesson here. I just watched a history podcast, kind of a history comedy podcast called History Hyenas. It's not around anymore, but two amazing comedians run it, Yannis Pappas and Chris DiStefano. And I watched the episode about the Battle of Crete. Now, I knew a little bit about the Battle of Crete, which is a World War II battle between German forces and the Greek, and then a mixture of New Zealand and British and French soldiers, I believe. And do yourself a favor, listen to the History Hyenas episode of Battle of Crete, but just to kind of give you a quick rundown here. A lot of historical experts, World War II experts, whatever, say that without the Battle of Crete happening, the Axis forces, meaning Italy and Germany during World War II, would have just kept steamrolling all of Europe and inevitably would have had full forces going into Russia and probably taking Russia. But because early on in World War II, the Greeks fought so hard in the Battle of Crete, and that it was a strategic outpost for a lot of British and New Zealand and French soldiers as well, because I don't know if you know the geographics of Greece, but Crete is just an island off the coast of Greece. It's kind of compared to Sicily being a part of Italy, even though it's an island pretty far off the coast, and there's kind of different kinds of people there. But anyway, long story short, the Nazis took France in under 4 days. I believe the Battle of Crete took 4 to 3 months of fighting, and they never really took it because there was constant guerrilla warfare. However, it was bloody, it was horrific on both sides, honestly, because this was the first time that the German forces used soldiers being dropped from airplanes. I'm drawing a blank on what they're called, but parachuting out of planes to land in Crete. But Winston Churchill basically had the heads up that was happening, told all the forces on Crete, hey, Germany's going to be dropping paratroopers, that's the word, from the sky. And so they knew what was happening. So the paratroopers were getting just shot down, and the ones that did land would just get taken apart by like old grandmothers and kids and teenagers, because anyone who was a fighting age was already off to Europe or Greece itself. But this Crete was just villagers, poor people. Now, on the downside, they did massacre a lot of the bodies, the German soldiers. And when the Germans finally started taking land and found like their compatriots like torn apart and like having their cocks bit off and like their assholes stuck on pipes and everything, they treated the villagers horrifically. I mean, war is fucking awful. A lot of experts believe that if it wasn't for the Battle of Crete lasting as long as it did, the German forces would have just keep taking and taking and taking, and they would have had full forces because they had to leave like 100,000 soldiers in Crete. And if those 100,000 soldiers were giving into the Russian side of the war, God only knows what would have happened. And not to mention that it took so long to basically, quote unquote, win Crete, which that would, they really didn't win Crete because it was constant fighting, that it delayed the march into Russia by a few weeks, and then fucking winter hit, and that's what basically doomed the Nazis, which, congratulations. So really, if it wasn't for the Greek fighting forces, along with some amazing New Zealanders, French, and British soldiers, World War II would have been a completely different outcome, a lot of people believe. And Winston Churchill even said that from this moment on, we will no longer say Greeks fight like heroes. Rather, heroes fight like Greeks. So, with that, I want to remind everybody that I'm actually 17% Greek, 40-something% Italian, and the rest is just honky white trash. So, then I think we can wrap up here. I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Treat others as you want to be treated. And yeah, see you around the bend.